high places surround us. They provide beautiful vistas, make for difficult journeys, but within their embrace we feel a sense of security. In a sense, mountains give us an overview. Up closer to heaven, we can see as far as the eye can see. Hi, I'm Bill Landry. Welcome to Heartland Tonight. Join us as we see what life brings us from a high place.
It's the best of the Heartland Series with Bill Landry on Heartland Tonight.
Tennessee is calling, rolling hills all dressed in green. Hear the heartland calling like an Appalachian spring. Smoky Mountain night is falling. The heartland's calling me, calling me.
The earliest explorers valued high places. In the wilderness, they were safer on the ridges, and from the heights they could see where their journey would take them. Perhaps it's truer than ever that we need high places. Tonight, an artist uses a living palette to paint the sky. The Smokies gain a keen observer and lose some species to time. And as the waters flow, so flows life. He roams the ridge tops to help the Great Smoky Mountains National Park Rangers, meeting and greeting hikers, answering questions, checking trail conditions. For Morgan Briggs, it's the perfect job. Where else could he walk in a heaven kind of place?
My territory in the Smokies is from Fontana Dam to Davenport Gap. I mean, that's the complete Appalachian Trail through the Smokies.
He walks alone, with purpose, like he's got somewhere to be. Actually, it is the getting there that is his work. He is a ridge runner on patrol.
Hey, another happy hiker. Good morning.
How are you?
Morgan Briggs,
Morgan,
ridge runner.
I'm Rick Masha, but
Yeah.
go by Big Dipper. I'm through hiking.
Big Dipper. You're through hiker. You're going all the way to Maine?
Through hikers of the Appalachian Trail are a breed apart, or this walk makes them so. They consume by footsteps 2,150 miles from Mount Katahdin, Maine to Springer Mountain, Georgia. As they tread the highest and wildest leg of their journey through the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, this whiskered guardian angel walks among them.
I've been alone, so my biggest fear is if I got injured, I got to rely on somebody else coming down the trail.
We have a lot of through hikers up here. The through hikers not any problem. They're usually prepared and they're conditioned to the trail. But a lot of the younger hikers are up here for just a few days, and sometimes it's the first time they've been backpacking and they're not prepared for the cold weather. Their boots are not adequate. They slip and slide and trip on logs.
A shortage of federal funds reduced the presence of backcountry rangers. The Ridge Runner and others like him bridged the gap. He is the eyes of the Smoky Mountain Hiking Club, which now tends the entire 71-mile stretch of the Appalachian Trail in the Smokies.
As a ridge runner, I mean, there's many things out here that I'm looking for. I talk to people. I try to find out, if they've got their permits, if they are legal, if they know the park regulations. I try to instruct them on low-impact camping. A lot of people don't think about things like that. I also try to turn in reports on the trail conditions, whether the trails are washing out in places or if there's trees down that need to be cleared.
The Ridge Runner calls a backcountry shelter home many a night. Sadly, some who profess respect for the land often don't show it here.
Trash everywhere. Well, let me see if I can get part of it out of here. Get most of it out, maybe. As the weather gets prettier and better, I think the shelters people will carry out their trash more.
He won't preach, but behind every greeting and direction is the message to leave no trace and preserve the beauty.
Everything going okay with you?
Everything is going good.
Fancy stick you got there. As you're coming just before you cross the bridge there at 53, on your left will be a huge tulip poplar tree. Good to notice that when you go through there. It's one of the larger trees in the park there. You have a good day.
All right, you too.
You know, I think a lot of people try to get away. They live in a life where there's noise and sirens.
Educator, helper, eyes of the backcountry. Whatever his role, The mountains themselves chose him for this walk of life.
And you can come out here and walk these trails, and you don't have to really be in a hurry, and it's quiet, it's peaceful. All you hear is the sounds of nature, the birds, the wind in the trees, the smell of the spruce. It's sort of like taking a tranquilizer.
Next on Heartland Tonight, we'll visit artist Paul Desmarais. On the hottest days, you'll see him trudging through the Greene County countryside. Prospecting, he calls it. But when artist Paul Desmarais sees the light fall just so upon a garden or hill, he stops, and with pastels and canvas, he captures light with color. Paul creates peaceful impressionistic scenes on the spot. Often the subject is right in his own backyard. Is it all about color?
At this point, yeah, it really is. At this point, it's not about detail. Detail is something that there's a tendency to rush into. Right now, it's kind of about figuring out light and dark patterns. You're making a sort of a commitment to the design. In any kind of commitment, you're always wondering, was it the right one? You know? You just have to have faith that it's going to work, because you can fail badly, but if you have faith, it's usually all right.
Green is not just green in Paul's view of the landscape. Where did you see that blue?
Oh, it's in the leaves. In the leaves. It's the part of the leaf that's being hit by the sunlight.
We first met artist Paul Desmarais doing what he does best, interpreting the outdoors in a burst of color and creativity. We found out he also raises butterflies.
It's just, to me, fascinating how something can change from a worm, just this little thing that can't hardly move, and then become this totally different flying object in just a month's time. To me, that's just really amazing. And of course, the color of them, just gorgeous creatures.
To artist Paul Desmarais, butterflies might well be flying canvases painted with nature's most brilliant colors. They have charmed him since boyhood. These days, Paul has taken them under his wing.
Hobby that I would.
He grows butterflies and moths at his Greene County home.
Well, they need to have nectar flowers, which everybody knows.
So this is a nectar plant?
Yeah, dahlias would be a nectar plant, and almost every one of these zinnias is a real favorite for butterflies. They really like zinnias real well. And coneflowers, these pink ones, they're very tough. It does well in our hot Tennessee climate. But they've also got to have food plant available to them so that they have food for their caterpillars. They're either trees or they're what we commonly call weeds. You need to have a little area that you can kind of let go.
As a quick review, the short life cycle of a butterfly or moth consists of the egg, caterpillar, chrysalis or pupa, and adult.
It takes about
Paul experiments with each stage to see if he can improve on his caretaking. He even feeds them trees.
He's got another couple inches to go, but they don't kill the trees. I, let them do this year after year.
What you got in the drum?
I've got a red spotted purple, a female.
Paul gives the butterfly the comforts of home, plus some sugar water and watermelon.
So in a few days, she'll get comfortable here. She'll have food and everything she wants. And if she feels like it, she'll lay the eggs on the tips of the wild cherry leaves.
Plastic bins incubate the next generation of moths and butterflies.
Moth eggs. And this is the egg of that cecropia moth. So this will hatch and eventually turn into those huge blue caterpillars that we saw earlier. Okay.
Oh, he's looking at me.
Yeah, these guys are, I think, some of the most beautiful caterpillars we have. And that's a spicebush swallowtail, which is a very beautiful butterfly. And these guys, I think they have those false eyes. They look kind of like a little snake, and I think they're meant to startle the bird.
A chrysalis looks fragile, but it's tough. There's the little cords. Just two, huh?
Yeah, he's attached two up here, and he's also attached down at the base. So he's very secure. The wind can blow, or he can get rained on and be fine.
The screened-in porch has become a nursery of sorts.
This is a chrysalis of a black swallowtail. Isn't she beautiful? She came out yesterday. Whoa. And it's time to let her loose. She's probably pretty hungry.
And this is the part you like?
This is the part I like the best. I really do like to turn them loose.
Some lazy summer day, a dazzling bit of color will flit by. If faith and hope prevail, it could be the work of the butterfly caretaker.
They're just kind of a gift. They don't take much from us, you know, and they give us a lot, I feel.
Next on Heartland Tonight, the story of Arthur Stupka. Arthur Stupka came to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park in its infancy. Over the course of his career, he shaped a foundation of knowledge of the mountains. His legacy is an ever-growing understanding of the importance of the Smokies. Arthur Stupka came to the Smokies in 1935 as the first chief naturalist in the developing Great Smoky Mountains National Park. His job was to really look at nature's work here, and then share his knowledge with park visitors. His would be a career of discovery and accomplishment, but the park was as yet unbuilt, so instructions from his new boss were clear.
He said, the thing for you to do is get acquainted with the park, and later on we'll put on a program that might be of interest to the public. Who said, this is your baby. You didn't want to be bothered, but...
With that, Stupka alone set out to know the wealth of the park, recording it in nature journals. He observed with the eye of a scientist and the heart of a poet. Among his first journal entries is this: tulip trees have lost a wealth of golden leaves by mid-October. The robber breezes rifle the leaves in great style at this time. October 14, 1935. Stupka looked at orchids and saw beautiful aristocrats. He described the racket of crickets and katydids as a commanding symphony. He regarded Mount Lacan in winter as ermine-clad and truly regal. These sights touched his soul.
I would rather go out on a trail out in the woods and be near my maker than probably in a church.
Yet he relentlessly pursued science, always keen for subtle changes.
I always had an altimeter with me in my knapsack, and if things were blooming at a certain date, a certain elevation, why, I would report it. When birds arrived, and when flowers bloomed, and things of that sort.
Stupka's journals chronicle change in the Smokies. One Hardy Sutton, who lives in what we call Chestnut Branch, reported that he saw near his home, which is well in the park area, 3 deer. So far as I know, this is the first report of deer in this section of the park in years. February 14, 1936. In the early days, he delighted in the buoyant play of the peregrine falcons and visited them often, unaware their days were numbered. In his journal, he writes, saw 2 of these noble birds here on the wing. They chose the most wild and inaccessible sites as their favorite haunts, banking, swooping, and dashing at one another, turning completely over in their flight. All in all, a glorious performance, one of the finest I have ever witnessed. In the late 40s, the birds had vanished, victims of pesticides. Years after Stupka's career ended, they returned.
Nature doesn't stand still.
As park roads and trails opened, Stupka turned his knowledge outward. He became famous among visitors for his fascinating personal guided walks and evening programs. And Stupka attracted renowned scientists, too. They added their discoveries to his. The natural history collection Stupka started now fills an entire room. His nature journals are still used by park staff, and Stupka wrote a series of books based on them.
That's been my interest all my life, ever since I was knee-high to a grasshopper.
His passion touched ordinary visitors and sparked appreciation for wonders great and small. That legacy continues when we wander the trails of the Smokies and look, really look, and learn. The Smokies today are a far different place than the Smokies that Stupka first saw. We can't deny or ignore the inevitable change in these mountains, for what is here today may be gone tomorrow. Many entire species have disappeared from these mountains. The deer and the black bear are two that are left, but the wolf, the buffalo, the elk, the cougar, and others are gone. They're called the extirpated species, animals that were here but are no more. As primitive as we would like to believe the Smokies are today, they are missing members from their ranks, members of the animal kingdom that were here even at the turn of the century. Like the Indians that respected and honored them, most are gone, but there is still hope that one lives on.
Well, reports are very sketchy on just exactly when the last cougar disappeared. Many people turn in sightings each year and still believe that the cougar is here. Unfortunately, to date, we have not been able to find or substantiate any concrete examples that the cougar still roams these mountains.
On a small scale, the National Park Service is experimenting with returning some of the lost animals. The beaver is making a comeback near Fontana Lake, and perhaps soon will the otter.
We don't have otters now. We are looking at the opportunities and possibilities of reintroducing the otter into the park.
But think about reintroducing other animals on a larger scale. For instance, if you were in Cades Cove in the 1850s, you might see more than deer in these meadowlands. You might see bison. Would it be possible to reintroduce such an animal? But not just the bison. The elk was here too. Could it live here again? Could tourists drive by elk herds as they drive by deer today? If you could have herds of bison and elk roaming these hills again, would you not need the predator that kept them in check? Marcella Cranford owns wolves and believes their fearful reputation is unearned.
They usually will try an animal, and if they see that the animal is sick or weak, that's the one they'll go after. They rarely bring down over 6% of what they go after. And so basically they're not an aggressive hunter at all. They will bring down the genetically weak animals and therefore make the herd stronger by taking the sick ones out.
As habitats change, as there's less wildlife, the American people become more enlightened in the worth of some of these animals. We can take a lot and tear an apartment building down and vegetation restores itself, but after the last cougar is gone or the last wolf is gone, there's absolutely no way to bring those species back.
We loved the Smokies and we saved them, but we were too late for many of its inhabitants. Nature will find a balance with what is left, but we must learn the lesson and remember. In 1984, when the Heartland Series began, we didn't expect that there would again be otters, elk and peregrine falcons in the Smokies, or that the red wolf would have come again and gone. For as Arthur Stupka observed years ago, nature doesn't stand still. Stay with us. When Heartland Tonight returns, we'll explore the life of a river. Without high places, water would just puddle up and stagnate. But thanks to high places and gravity, waters gathered together and flow. The rivers formed by these gathering waters give life and character to the land. A river is life going on. Through time it changes, but never dies. This is a river's life. The lives of the French Broad and Holston rivers that flow through East Tennessee began several million years ago during ice ages. In land that would become Tennessee and North Carolina, periods of warmth and rain scoured rock from the frozen mountains, settling it in the valleys below. Today, these deposits of 1 million years ago stand high above and away from the river. These rocks right here look like river.
River used to be up this high, and these are old terrace deposits, so where the stream channel used to be up at this elevation. There's the river bottom. You can see the meander of the river.
In a river's life, amazing animals swam here, thrived here. A giant beaver, many times larger than the modern animal. Fish, not much change from today's version of sturgeon. Gar, the paddlefish, swam here, as did smaller creatures like snail darters and snails. What might drink from the Holston then would be astounding. Monstrous animals like saber-toothed tigers, a long-nosed peccary or pig-like animal, mighty mastodons fed upon the spruce forest in the lowlands, forests now found only on the mountaintops. Huge sloths, 3 times the size of man, browsed the woody plants. By 10 to 15,000 years ago, many of these beasts had disappeared. A new creature walking upright came to depend on the river.
I think the first man would see what we're seeing here. A bank with trees overhanging the bank. Willow and sycamore and box elder, maple. But behind the bank, on this flat, flooded land, would be a swamp, a really wet swamp.
Among the rushes and cattails in abundance grew another plant we seldom see today, river cane, our only native bamboo. Early travelers mentioned it frequently as the cane brakes were a good hiding place and saved many a life.
And it was in the bottoms everywhere. And the Indians used it and the early pioneers used it for all kinds of purposes. During the early period of white European people coming in here to occupy the land, they brought with them their cattle and horses and hogs, and they found the cane delicious.
Like the river cane, in time the river itself was diminished, its restless nature caught by flood-controlling dams, its natural order recast by exotic species. So today it is hard to visualize the Virgin River's landscape without making the present a part of it. As at home as it looks, for example, the great blue heron began nesting here only after TVA dams were built. In these times, such is a river's life. From high places, we've looked out and seen the world change, and ventured out in the world long enough to change a bit ourselves. See you next week on Heartland Tonight.